let's make sure that our mic is good. Oh, I know you can do it. There we go. Oh, I know you can do it. There we go. Okay, so we have good audio. What should we work on tonight? I think more wedges, probably. Started filming a new series for you guys. I'm pretty excited about that. Oh, definitely important to stretch after. Yep, definitely important to keep the body moving, stretch out before we start trying to swing at some high speeds. Gonna be hitting some balls. Rising Vibes said hi. Hey, Rising Vibes. Jim and Dana said hello. Hey, Jim and Dana. Welcome back to the stream, guys. Thanks for being here. We're just gonna be hanging out. Getting loose, hitting some balls, chatting with the stream chat. There's our driver. He was at the range earlier. My driver said, "Where's my driver?" There it is. Left it in here, left it in the lab. That's okay, we still had a really good range session. Filmed day 2 of the new series I'm working on. Important to get loose. I don't know if that microphone is going to stay there. It's not my favorite spot for it. Who else is in here? What was your score? I don't know. I think it was around even par. I do have beginner tips. Hillary said hi, Buff Santa said hi, and Kind Loser said hey. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out. All right, so beginner tips, right? If you really are new to golf, you want to give it a try, right? You watch it on TV, or you watch, and you see people make these big, long, beautiful swings, right? Or the club goes way back here over their head, all that kind of stuff, right? If you're just getting started, don't worry about all that, right? You just want to learn how to hit maybe half shots, half swings. Just like that, right? You don't need fancy equipment. Grab a 9-iron or a pitching wedge. And you're just going to practice hitting it maybe 50 yards on the driving range, right? Learn how to strike the ball solidly, right? In the center of the club face so that it flies pretty straight towards your target. Right? And you just want to learn that impact position. And it's much, much easier to do at a slow speed when you make the swing smaller, right? Than if you're trying to make this big, long swing where the club's back here, because that's what you saw on TV. I would definitely recommend, if you're a beginner, starting with, little 50% shots. Try to hit it 50 yards. Matt says, have you drank water today? Probably not enough. Baller Prod says hi. Hey guys. Put the mic further down your throat. Yeah, see, I'm not convinced it's a good spot for the mic. Country Kid said hi. Darren said hi. Hey guys. Mic is in a crazy spot when you lean down. Fair enough. How about that? Water is important. Yeah, we got to stay hydrated, right? Look at us. We came prepared. Lemon seltzer today, guys. Polar variety. No free ads, but it is the best seltzer out there. Daniel says, happy Friday, everyone. Yeah, happy Friday, guys. Kyle says, are you good? Good at golf? It depends on the day. Country Kid said hi. Hey, Country Kid. Me said hi. Hey, guys. Welcome to the chat. Jaden said, hey, bro. Hi, Jim and Dana. Hi, Cam Carter. Hi, Night Owls. Oh, I'm so... if your name is characters and it comes up that way, I want to acknowledge you in the chat, but I don't know a good way to do that. But hello to everyone who's first time or returning viewers. Guys, we're almost at 1,600 subscribers. Unbelievable. I mean, just the amount of support, doing all these live streams, right? Seeing all you guys keep showing up, coming back to hang out, you know, maybe learn some stuff, chat with the other people in here in the stream. It's been really cool, you know, just seeing all the support, all the growth. And yeah, I'm excited to do this putting video, this putting challenge. Cam says, how's your day going? My day's going great, guys. Thanks for asking. Roderick says, hi from Guangzhou. Very cool. Hello, Roderick. Slubber DeGulian said hello. Oh, hi to me. Haha, that's funny. How to keep the club face square, whole swing, backswing, and downswing. Good question, Aiden. And Aiden says he's a big fan. Very cool. Thanks, Aiden. I like this question because I get to talk about one of my, you know, favorite ideas in the golf swing, right? Which is keeping the face pretty stable to our path all the way through, right? I try really hard not to feel like this club face is rolling open and then having to roll back shut, right? And trying to time up that closure through impact, right? Obviously, there is some amount of that happening because of how the club works, but Aiden, I like to start with a nice solid grip, right? You know, if anything on the stronger side, and make sure you take your grip. You guys have heard me say this before. Take your grip in the position you want to hit the ball, right? So take your grip with some lean in the shaft, right? I have a sand wedge here. I definitely need some forward shaft lean at impact, right? And then from there, it's just about, you know, understanding that your hands, your forearms are not opening this way, right, or closing much this way. You want to keep that club face square, especially for the first part of the takeaway. Feel like it's pointing at the ball, right? If you make a nice wide takeaway, and if your club face had eyeballs on it, you could imagine it looking at the golf ball until about halfway back, right? And that will keep that face pretty square to that arc as it swings around our body. So hopefully that helps, Aiden. Putt Rasta said hi. Hey guys, Little Timmy asked, how long have you been playing for and what clubs do you use? Good question, Little Timmy. Tacoma irons right now. I've got mostly TaylorMade woods, Vokey wedges. Putter right now is this Spider Tour from 10 years ago. The Tacoma irons are really pretty. I've got the 301 CBs. I got those at the beginning of this season trying to find something a bit more forgiving. I had played true blades, you know, MB irons for a long time, with a couple, you know, different sets I tried here and there, but mostly just straight blades. And these are really attractive, and it's got a bit more perimeter weighting, still a nice short heel to toe profile that I like, and not a monstrous top line. You know, but it does have a bit more forgiveness on the, you know, slight heel or toe strikes. Kyle says, play me now. Sure. What's your fave club? Jim and Dana asked. Well, it's probably driver most of the time, guys. I love hitting driver. When I'm hitting it well, it's one of the best clubs in my bag, if not the best. Yeah, I love hitting driver. Super fun. Abayomi says, hello, mate. Love your stream. Would like to be a fan and friendly hang out together on Discord. I don't have Discord, but yeah, I'd love to hang out in the chat here. Thanks for being a fan. And, you know, if you guys are enjoying the stream, you want to subscribe to the channel. That's always super cool. You don't seem to be putting. I'm not putting at the moment. Nope. Joshua Cole's back. What's up, Joshua? Hustle said hi. Hey, Hustle. Swing 101. Trail Tamer said hi. Finley says, I'm a golf fan and I'm 10. That's awesome. Enjoy your youth. When your knees don't hurt. Your back doesn't hurt. And your neck doesn't hurt. How do you hit the balls so hard? Lots of practice. What is the most underrated club? Driver. I think we know because of stats. And, you know, Mark Brody and Scott Fawcett, like how important distance off the tee and being able to advance your ball, you know, while avoiding penalty situations with the driver, just how important to scoring that is. Like the saying, drive for show, putt for dough is just not really true. Like we know based on the stats that, you know, it's very important for your handicap potential to be able to advance the ball really far down the hole. Phineas and Ferb are coming out with a new season. Is that true? Never seen it, but that's exciting if you're excited about that. Very cool, Trinity. All right, Hustle wants to go through Swing 101. So Swing 101, if you're just getting started, like I mentioned a second ago, definitely when you're at the range practicing, right, work on really making the swing smaller and slower, right? So instead of trying to make a big, long swing, right, over your head and all that, just learn how to hit, you know, like a 50% swing. Grab a 9-iron and try to hit it 50 yards. But how do we do that, right? So if that's the you know, the drill, right? The swing, right? What we want to understand, we're trying to swing this club as efficiently as we can to deliver, you know, a proper impact conditions into the ball, right? And what that means is the shaft is leaning forward some amount towards the target, and we're coming into the ball on a descending angle, right? Some amount. These are kind of just the key, you know, tenets, things that are important for making good contact, right? And then from there, we're trying to deliver as much speed as we can, as efficiently as possible, right? And we do that by pushing off the ground and swinging this club around our body in an arc, you know, in an attempt to then deliver it back into the ball with as much energy as possible while controlling the club face and the path into the ball such that we can control the flight and the distance it flies through the air. Ideally, you know, if we deliver a good strike, right? So Swing 101 is just make sure you keep that club head as far away, you know, give yourself as much width as you can. We need time and space to allow the club to transfer its energy from the backswing into the downswing, right? So that club head stays out that way, right? Nice and wide away from me. And then it's momentum, right? Turns my shoulders. The club starts to drop, right? There's a pause at the top almost while that energy, you know, transfers into the downswing. And then from there, you know, my arms lower, my weight shifts forward, move the low point forward, right? And then you hit it. So I don't know if that was concise enough to be 101, but any tips to stop slicing? And Ice said, I love pool tables. Oh, never mind, it is golf. It is golf. That's what we're doing here. We're doing some other stuff too. We're talking about some, you know, real life things. I'm not going to need these AirPods. But yeah, mostly golf. Tips to stop slicing. If you're really struggling with a slice, number one thing I want you to work on is learning how to hit a big draw or a hook, right? Learn how to control your club face so that you can get it closing faster. You can neutralize your path, right? Get the ball starting further to the right. You know, if you're traditionally hitting a slice, you know, where it's an inside takeaway and the club steepens this way, you know, the path is across it this way and the face is open, right? That causes that high spinny shot that moves to the right. We want the opposite, right? We want, you know, the club coming in from the inside, right, with the face more neutral so that we don't see that type of flight on the ball. So a good drill to do that, you guys have seen me probably do this before. Grab your head cover, drop it down next to the ball, you know, on the right side. And this will teach you to shallow out the club, right? Because if you do make a steep swing and you come over the top of it, you're going to hit that head cover. You're going to block your path to the ball. So if we make the swing we want to, right, we're going to approach from the inside, and that'll make it much easier to stop that ball from slicing so far to the right. Hustle says, fire emoji. So I think that means it was a good explanation. I'll take it. I keep face square, and then at the top, face rolls open, then try to shut it impact. Need fix. Yeah, I think just try to exaggerate it, Aiden, right? If you're feeling the face rolling open, what would it feel like to have it roll shut, right? You know, try to exaggerate that opposite condition and see if you can't dial it in from there. Princess Penelope says hi, and what's your handicap? Usually between 0 and 1, or +1. Chase and Sophie said hi. Hey, guys. Cody says, when I hit my 56, I get good penetrating ball flight, but with my irons, I have the same swing and end up shanking the ball. Any tips? Well, I might look at your setup, right? See if you're standing too close to the ball or too far away from it. Right? Because if you are shanking it, right, let's understand what's happening. The condition that you're bringing into impact is presenting the extreme heel of the club, right, the hosel, such that that's where you're making impact, right? What I would try to work on, Cody, is try to hit 10 balls in a row out of the dead part of the toe, right? Just really toe it and see if you can't move your strike position further out on the face that way, because that's really what you got to work backwards from. Right? Like what is the condition I'm presenting? It's, you know, extreme heel at impact. How do I correct that? I need to neutralize that, right, by bringing laterally the center of the club face closer to me, right, such that it hits the ball, not the hosel. Hopefully that helps, Cody. Jayhawk says, what if it starts right and starts right? Do you mean starts right and stays right? So if it's starting right and staying right, or going right, then that could tell us that the path is from the inside, right? But the face is also open, right? So if we see the ball launching to the right of our target, that means the path and the face are pointed that way. So you would need to work on, you know, neutralizing your path such that that ball launches further, you know, closer to our target line, further to the left, and closing the face some so that it doesn't curve further to the right once you do hit it, right? So one way to do that would be to, you know, you could set up on the range, give yourself an alignment stick like this right in front of your target line, right? And teach yourself how to control your impact such that you can start the ball on the left side of the stick, right? You could teach yourself still to hit a fade, right, or hit a pretty straight shot, but teach yourself to see it launching on the left side of that stick, and your body will help you, you know, your body and your brain will work together to help you correct that once you have a target. Billy Bob says, nice shoes, and I like your car. Well, you can't see my car, but hey, John, I wear a 2XL glove and normally have jumbo grips. Do you recommend +4 jumbo grips because I have +2 and feel like I turn over the club prematurely? Thanks. Well, I'm not a club fitter, so with that being said, if you do struggle with that, right, with the face turning over a whole bunch, that is a good way to try to neutralize it. I think larger grips is something that will become much more normal pretty soon. I myself have moved to, this is a built-up mid-size grip, and I'll probably go even to jumbos next year. I don't know how, honestly, I played standard-size grips for so long. I mean, even these, I feel like I could tomorrow, you know, go 3 or 4 more wraps on them and feel really good about where they're at. So yeah, I think it's a great idea, right? And if you are noticing that the face is turning over, that's a pretty common way to, you know, try to neutralize the hands, right? How much you're turning over that club. Shane says hi. Hey, Shane. Hustle says, do you recommend Tacoma 201 for beginners? If you're really a beginner, I might start with the 101. I think that's their most forgiving one, but I'm definitely not an expert. I am a big proponent, your second comment, right? You buying a used cheap set and save the money. I think it's a great idea, right? I think golf has an accessibility issue as it is. And this idea that the big golf companies want you to buy into that, well, you need all new fancy clubs and a new driver every year and all this stuff. I just don't think it's true. I think you can get a lot better at golf. You can have a great time. You can save a ton of money. You know, and if you're really a beginner, you're saying, hey, I'm interested in this, but I don't know if it's really for me. You know, buy a handful of clubs, right? Buy a driver and a 5-iron and a pitching wedge and a putter, right? And you can go out and play golf and have a great time learning how to hit shots, you know, get yourself around with just a handful of clubs. You don't need to spend a ton of money to get started playing golf. I feel pretty strongly about that. Shane said hi again. Hey, Shane. Sycamore asks, can you fix old age? No. Hey, Liliana's in the chat. What's up? Hari Krishnan said hi. Hey, Hari Krishnan. Sycamore, I don't think I can fix old age, unfortunately. But I do think that, I mean, I'm somebody who I feel better physically at 30 than I did at 25. And that's because I stretch now and I exercise regularly, you know, and I take care of myself to a higher degree. So daily stretching, daily mobility has been huge for me, right? Especially if you're somebody like me who sits a lot, you sit all day at work, you know, making sure that your hip flexors are stretched out, you know, working on building some core strength, right? These are all things that will help us in our golf swing too. Thanks, John. Wish I could super chat you. Very valuable info you're sharing. What is super chat, Fox? Fox FMX? I don't know what that is. How long are you playing golf for? I've been playing golf for like 20 years. Okay. Louis says, I was playing golf 2 years ago with my brother, my little brother, and my mom. Okay. I was playing golf 2 years ago with my brother, my little brother, and my mom. I swung the golf up into my ankles, smashed my ankle. I could hear it crack. I went to a hospital. Oh, man. That sounds really painful. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. Hopefully it's better now. Oh, you know what? We should have done that before. Well, that's simply won't do, will it? How is it saying I'm offline? Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Fox says, I think when you reach 4K subs, I think you can monetize your channel. Oh, got it. Oh, got it. Well, I think there's definitely better things you can donate your money to, is my first reaction. But I think when the time comes, if those kinds of opportunities present themselves, right, I will be, happy to take part. But for the most part, I'm just trying to grow this platform, feel like I'm giving something back, putting something out into the world that's positive. And, right, there's so much negative stuff out there. It's so easy to turn the news on, turn the TV on, and just be like, man, it seems pretty bleak out there. So this channel is, for me, a way to try to, put something positive back into the world, make somebody smile, share some knowledge that I've acquired, whether that's about golf or about life, and just try to give something back, right? So yeah, like I said, there's tons of places you can give money. Kimura said, hey, new in here. What's up, Kimura? New subscribers are always cool. Thanks for saying hi, guys. Lowkey Scott is back in the chat. What's up, Lowkey Scott? What's cooking? We're just getting some swings in, getting some practice. Enjoying our Friday evening. We started filming a new putting challenge series. We're going to do 50 putts on the Pels Tutor every day for the next 30 days. Well, from when you guys see it, it'll start in a couple days, but I'm going to be filming that every day for the next 30 days. And I know I'm still going to miss putts out there, but I needed a way to create some accountability for myself, to be like, occasionally I'm practicing, and I spent a ton of time all winter on the stroke, really getting it in a good place, but still not happy with the results on the golf course. So trying to use that as a mechanism to hold myself accountable, really put in some work, record how I do, right? Have some data. Did I hit my goal? The goal is going to be 45 out of 50, 90% success. Fox says, we definitely appreciate your channel. Well, that's awesome. Thank you very much for saying that. What tips would you give for a new golfer? My main tip, my best tip if you're a new golfer. Number one, like hands down, best tip, right? You got to work backwards from impact. So learn what a good fundamental impact position looks like, right? With the handle leaning forward some amount. Your path into the ball is descending some, right? You're hitting down onto it. And the hips are open to the target, right? And you can practice that position, right, at slow speed. And the way you train it, especially if you're a beginner, is by hitting, grab a 9-iron or a pitching wedge, something that's got some loft on it, and try to hit it 50 yards, right? And make a swing where you feel like you really make good contact, you're hitting it out of the center of the face, and it flies pretty straight, towards your target, right? And you just make the swing smaller, and you slow it down, and you learn impact. And then once you say, okay, if I hit 10 balls, I'm going to hit, 9 or maybe 10 of them pretty solidly with that little half swing, right? And you feel like really, confident that you could, boom, just deliver a nice strike over and over again. Then you start adding a little bit of speed to it, right? But if you're a beginner, don't worry about making a big, long swing and hitting the ball a mile. You'll have a lot more fun, learn how to see the ball fly towards your target, getting up in the air. And the best way to practice your technique, for something that is as difficult as hitting a golf ball, you got to do it at slower speed. So once you have that down, then you start to add some more speed to it, right? What else is cooking in the chat? SWS said, yo, what's up, SWS? Let me check one. Are we back? Hopefully we're back. We were on the slow Wi-Fi network. Hopefully now it's a little better. Been spending a lot of time working on the driver, guys, as I've been playing the last couple rounds. It's been a bit inconsistent, right? Made some really good swings, hit some nice drives, kind of right where I was aimed. And then, I had a couple just like really big double crosses, where I'm like aimed down the right side and I hit a big like pull into a lake. And it's like, those are the kinds of swings that I just know are holding my scores back, right? Because it's really tough to come back from those kinds of big mistakes. DRP, what's your handicap? Usually between 0 and 1 or +1. We're trying to get to +2 this year. It feels like it's mostly the putting. Like I've been hitting, between like 12 and 15 greens around recently, and still posting scores in like the mid 70s, high 70s. So it's just been a little frustrating not to feel like I'm getting, like I'm not scoring for how I'm striking the ball. But there's a reason why, a handicap is like based on 20 scores, right? Because volatility from round to round is pretty high. Does your ball bounce left into a bunker or right onto the green, right? You can hit good shots, and that's why we need a bigger sample size, right, to really feel like this work is paying off. But the swing feels as good as it ever has. Especially just some of the iron shots that I'm able to hit. I know that the progress is there, it's showing itself, but when you're in the middle of a swing change, it can be frustrating to, make those like stuck in between swings, and it's just going to take time, right? It's going to keep time. We're going to keep working at it. So I'm trying to work on still smoothing out that transition as much as I can to let that club shallow out. What's going on with you guys? Anybody playing golf this weekend? I'm going to have bad weather again this weekend, so no golf on the horizon, I don't think. Unfortunately. Let's make sure this is... Yeah, it looks pretty square. And you guys... Yeah, it looks pretty square on the camera. Hustle says, any swing drills we can do at home? Yeah, definitely. So one of my favorite things to do if you're stuck at home, you can't hit balls or make swings, find somewhere, well, you got to be able to make a swing, right? Somewhere you're not going to hit the ceiling. But set up your phone, on a little tripod like I've got, and you can work on slow motion stuff, right? Whether it's, your takeaway, trying to make sure that you keep the club, nice and wide on the way back, right? That's what I've really been working on a lot. And all winter, I'd set up my phone, I'd push record, and I would go really slow and try to rehearse the swing I wanted to make, right? And then I would look at it on camera and I'd say, okay, a little more hands in, keep the club out, right? Or, it gets a little laid off, so, make sure we're keeping some height in it, and like whatever it is. And you can use a mirror for the same thing, right? You don't even need to use your phone. And you can just look in a mirror and say, okay, that's a good spot, right? That's where I want that club. Or like sometimes is the case for me, if I'm making a practice swing, I let this club get a little bit, you know, inside, right, kind of quick in here, and I'll look and I'll say, oh, I don't like that. I want it to be more out here, right? So I can just use the mirror to kind of checkpoint through my swing, right, and make sure that those positions are in a good spot, right? And it'll be pretty revealing, or, you know, you'll look on video and say, oh, I don't love how, you know, I get this way when I come into impact, or I don't love how the club gets, you know, over the top this way. You'll start to notice those things the more you watch your own swing. Matthews, between +1 and 1 usually. C. Rich said hi. Hey, C. Rich. Diddy's lube bottle. Grab my rod and hit my balls, Zaddy. Season is about done here, in the hundreds already. Oh, in Arizona. Got it. Hustle said, okay, with a thumbs up. Awesome. So really good strikes on those. Got to continue to work on keeping our balance as best as we can. Something that I still struggle with a little bit, right? You don't see a lot of good players hit good golf shots and then go, oh man, I just kind of fell over, right? You know, it's all pretty stable and balanced, right? So we're going to keep working on that. Man, yeah, over 100 already in Arizona. That doesn't sound like great golf weather. Although I suppose, you know, we have our bad season here too, right? You know, we're not playing any golf really from like December to March, November to March even. Bow, 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 bow. Must have started a little late today. Caught everybody at dinner time. That's okay, guys. I mean, we're out here working, and whether there's, you know, 300 people watching or 3, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. You know, answering questions, trying to share my perspective, working on the game. Tiny bit clangy on that one. Didn't feel like the best strike. Maybe a little steep. All right, I'm really trying to stay nice and centered and balanced. Yeah, not going that way, right? When I get going out on my toes, is when bad things start to happen. Really like this setup for the alignment. We have the opposite of you guys, but I still find time to get in practice in the morning. Yeah, I think that's... I love practicing in the morning. I've been trying to get up early to... I've been trying to get up early to get my practice in. I think it's quieter, right? If you're willing to set an alarm at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning and get up, there are definitely some advantages, you know. Quieter ranges, quieter practice areas. Gotta keep reminding myself. Just less grip pressure is usually better. And what do you know? Just an absolute flusher. Craig says, sounds like Tor striking the ball pure. Well, I appreciate that, Craig. Yeah, we've been hitting it pretty solidly here for a little while now, which is good. Braun says, love the lives. What type of clubs you got? Well, the irons are these Tacoma 301 CBs. These are pretty sweet. I switched away from some old TaylorMade blades. Right, this is what I was gaming for a long time. Right, these old 2011 forged MB irons. So these are pretty cool. I still have these around somewhere. Well, the heads anyway, because I put the same shafts in the new Tacoma irons. But I went to a CB iron, guys, because I knew I needed a tiny bit more forgiveness. Right, I'm not able to practice every day like you guys you see on TV. Although now with my net, I actually can kind of practice every day. So maybe I shouldn't say that. But how about this? My skill level is not as developed as somebody who really should be playing blades or wants to score their best. So went to this slightly more forgiving iron. Still has an awesome profile, right? It's super attractive to look at. Nice clean lines behind the ball. We should do an updated what's in the bag video. Maybe I'll film that at some point and just go through what we've been playing so far this year. See, when I make the takeaway properly, everything else is just set from there. Like, it's so easy to deliver a great strike when I'm set here, right? And I keep that club head nice and wide. And then from there, I just stay balanced and boom, swing down on it. Oh, thank you guys very much for all your support on the stream. C. Rich says, what iron should a 12 handicap get? Well, I think getting fit is always going to be my default answer, right? Get some time on TrackMan, find a club champion or a place that you can work on or get some data and see how different clubs and shaft options perform. But in lieu of that, right, if you're like, hey, I'm not really there yet, I think, a forgiving CB type iron, right, can get you pretty far, right? If you're a 12 handicap, certainly you've already developed some ball striking ability, right? You can hit the center of the face with some consistency, depending on the day, right? I've obviously heard great things about like the P790s, I think they're called, is like the cast, players improvement iron from TaylorMade. Oh, that ball was probably going a mile left, it felt like. But it was hit okay. Just had the face shut. Yep, that was so much better. Keep the shoulder down. So yeah, I think something in that vein would be my go-to recommendation. But again, I'm not a club fitter or an expert. But yeah, definitely something forgiving, right? You know, don't worry about like, are these irons cool? I think whichever ones you hit the best, and you get, you know, it's a pretty consistent distance and flight out of. Fun question for you. What do you think about Golf Plus on MetaQuest 3 as a way to help train during the hot summer? Obviously still swing a real club in between. That's an interesting question. I don't know how I feel about it as a swing trainer. I'd want to try it. I've never tried it, so I don't want to give you an ill-informed opinion. I personally might be worried about it translating or like, you know, doing things to my real golf swing I don't want it to without some sort of feedback. But if there was games built into it or there was a way to give you, you know, get feedback on positions, I've never tried it, so it could be cool. If nothing else, it might be fun, right? I mean, I've played a ton of PJ Tour, like EA Sports, right? I think that's actually a pretty good way to learn course management when you don't have to worry about, like, am I striking the ball consistently, right? In a video game, as long as you don't overswing it, you're going to hit it, you know, pretty straight, right? But it's a great way to learn course management with that in mind. So, plus I think a lot of NFL guys are doing VR stuff now. Certainly different than golf, but anytime you've got pro athletes saying like, yeah, this is a thing that we think adds value to our profession, there's probably something to it. Yeah, I keep the hands in, club stays wide, and I just have all the time and space in the world, as long as I stay here, to just hit it as nicely as I want. Course management is exactly what I use it for. Yeah, well then I think that's great. Right, I found it especially helpful, playing those games to understand, like, we're not aiming a precision instrument, right? We're aiming, our expected outcome is a range, right? Dispersion is a cone. So, that really helps inform, like, well, if I'm playing a fade to a right pin, right, I have to pick a target that my most right shot still lands on the green, right? Because if I hit a fade at that right pin, I could hit the best shot in the world, but, the wind could gust up, the lie could affect the ball, right? And you hit the one that's on the right side of your shot pattern, all of a sudden you're short-sided in a bunker, making a bogey, right? When you could have just aimed your dispersion cone slightly further to the left, and that, bad shot, the one that comes out on the right, actually probably ends up pretty close to the hole, right? This is what they talk about, with Scotty Scheffler playing away from pins, right? You always see him, if he has a short right pin, he's hitting it long left of that pin. If he has a back right pin, he's hitting it short left of that pin. And almost trying to feel like you're sneaking up on the hole, right? Really striking it well, guys. Oh, got in front of that one slightly. See, that's what the golf gods will let you know. They're like, hey, you're getting a little cocky here. You're going to thin heel one next because you're getting a little big for your britches. And we golf gods don't like that. So you just remember, you just got to make every swing the best you can. That was good. Tatum says, how do I fix my head from dipping in my backswing? My left knee kicks into the right side and ruins everything. So you're saying your head is dropping in the backswing, and your left knee is going this way? Is what you're telling me? Like kind of folding in on itself? Okay. So, a couple things. I want you to try to separate these things, right? These are two different parts of your swing, right, that you're going to try to work on. And the first one, again, you just want to try to really exaggerate, this idea of fighting fire with fire, right? So if your knee is going way in like this, right? What I want you to do is make a backswing. It can be just, in your bedroom. You don't have to have a range or a net to hit into. You can just make practice swings, right? But try to feel like you're pushing out this way with that left knee, right? Whatever the opposite is, if you're saying, hey, it's really collapsing in on me this way, let's assume it isn't a physical thing, right? This is just a swing thing that we're trying to fix, right? Try to make a backswing where you're pushing that knee almost this way, right? Try to feel the opposite. And what else you'll notice? Well, you'll notice some stuff, some bracing in your hip and your lower back, right? Things that you can learn and take away to your regular swing, right? Because you're trying to feel, you want some amount of this, of knee flex, right? But not really getting away from you, right? The way you're describing. Right, so that's one thing. And then same idea applies for the head, right? If you're saying, I look on video and my head is really, dropping down a ton, try to exaggerate it. Exaggerate the opposite, right? Make some swings where you feel like there's a string and someone's holding the top of your head, right? And you can't let it go down, right? So you're maintaining your height, right? If your swing fault is the head comes down and you want it up higher, well, try to feel like someone's pulling it up away from you. Does that help, Tayden? Hey, Maxon Hubbard's back in the chat. What's up, Maxon? One of our longtime supporters, Maxon. He's got his own channel, too. If you guys want to check that out. Just the hands stay in and the hands stay in is what I'm trying to feel. And it's working really nicely for me. And what I mean by that, guys, is hands stay in, club stays out nice and wide. And then on the way down, hands stay in, right? I'm trying to fight going this way. So if the hands stay in, the club will stay nicely outside, right? And I have tons of space and time to make the strike. And you'll notice, like, I'm really trying to exaggerate that feel, right? Like I'm fully, keep my hands as close in here as I can, right? We really have to exaggerate these movements if we want to change our motor pattern, right? Because when you're swinging at full speed, your body's mostly saying, all right, we're swinging at full speed. We got to just hit that ball, right? It's really hard to give yourself, hey, hit it at 100% speed and, change this feel in your backswing or whatever you're working on, right? So don't be afraid to make some smaller swings. C. Rich asks, what's your favorite course you've been to? It's a great question. The ones that come to mind are, there's kind of two categories, right? There's like golf history ones, like the Country Club in Brookline. Where you're like, I've seen the movies, we've seen the pictures from 100 years ago, from these cool tournaments. And, they just had the US Open there a couple years ago too. So there's historic ones like that. And then there's places like, like Cabot Cliffs up in Nova Scotia that you're just like, wow, I can't believe there's a golf course here, right? And it looks like this. Whistling Straits is kind of like that too. Where you're just like, man, like, how is there a golf course here? This is just a crazy piece of property. Just, really special kind of nature and property. So, yeah, it's really hard to pick just one. I played some really cool golf courses and, and had like special experiences, in terms of like the people I was with. I played some cool golf courses where I'm like, well, I'm glad I got to play there, but it was, like a thing for work and, not particularly memorable other than the fact it was at a cool golf course. Did you build your platform? I did build this platform. It's as simple as it gets, right? It's just some 2x4s to build a little box with a piece of plywood underneath holding it all together. And then I built it up with some interlocking gym foam tiles. right? And just some cardboard to give it enough height and some cushion, right? All I was trying to do was cushion the blow of, you know, hitting down into the ground over and over again, right? Getting up off the ground, spreading some of that energy around. It seems to have worked really nicely, right? It has settled a bit. I wish I had filled it in a bit more before screwing the mat onto the top. But that can always be fixed down the road if I need to. I can't imagine this mat will last forever. Though I do think the net return you know, will probably last me a decade. Like, I know it's expensive, but it does seem pretty built to last. Man, that swing just feels so good, so easy. Put a lot of time in to get to this point. Gotta make sure we stay hydrated here, guys. 36 likes on the stream. Amazing, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. Just got in front of that one slightly. That's okay. Still making a lot of good swings. And again, remember, guys, if you ever like, hey, you know, I'm starting missing it a bunch, not finding the center of the face, it can be good for confidence too, right? Just hit some little ones. Boom. Just feel that nice compression again. Can be really good for the confidence too. That was so ultra flush. Jackson says, hey dude, you want to be friends? Yeah, I feel like all my subscribers, I feel like I could be friends with. How would you rate your grip strength 1 to 10? I feel like I hit much cleaner shots with an easier flow and less tense, but also more inconsistent that way. Interesting. I try to feel like I'm at a 3 or a 4 out of 10, but I do find myself oftentimes being like, wow, it felt like you were more like an 8 on that last swing. So it is something I consciously am thinking about, trying to not feel like I'm, you know, squeezing the club to death, right? And I do feel like I hit nice, consistent shots. Helps me really with tempo too, right? When I'm not squeezing the living daylights out of it. To just make a nice, smooth, balanced swing. Right, everything does just kind of flow better, I agree. So that's a great swing thought, right? I like simple swing thoughts like that, right? For me, I made a video about having one about balance, right? Because it's not technical, it's just make a balanced swing. You know, hold your finish, right? And if that's my objective, and if I can accomplish that, I'm going to hit a lot of good golf shots, right? All the technical work I'm doing in here, in the lab, right, where I'm really slowing it down, I'm breaking it down, trying to develop these feels, trying to move my motor pattern, right, trying to, you know, change the swing, make it better. When I'm out on the golf course, I want, you know, simple, task-oriented type things. What's your swing percentage when you're out on the golf course? I've heard some pros say 75 to 85. I feel like mine's probably closer to 90. Like my on-course speed, right? Like on TrackMan all winter, you know, I was hitting 9 irons like 160, 162, right? But when I get on the golf course, I don't want to have to hit a 9 iron 160 in the air, right? I play at like 150. You know, because I just can make a 90% type swing. I'm going to hit it way straighter and more consistently with that kind of swing, right? And remember, irons are about accuracy. It's about consistent distance control and as tight a dispersion laterally as we can achieve, right? So, yeah, I love the idea of really toning it down on the speed front, right, as a percentage of 100. Because again, like, swing at 100% or trying to really hit an iron super hard, I think it just makes it that much easier for technique to break down. Right, we're looking for consistency. I want to see that swing on video. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. All right, guys, we're probably going to hit a few more balls here. And then call it a night at the top of the hour here. But hopefully you guys have some good weather this weekend, can get out and play some golf. Do you consciously hinge wrist, or does this happen naturally as you press down with your left hand? I think it happens more naturally, right? I'm not really consciously thinking about my wrist hinging. I'm thinking about, sending this club up on a wide arc, right? Which, means keeping it away from me, but putting some energy into it from the ground to start the swing, right? And the result of that is as I change direction, because this club head is heavier than this part, right? Gravity's going to pull it down. That will hinge my wrists sort of naturally, right? As we, if you think about your hands being in a track, like imagine they were on like a train track where the swing happens, right? Well, as you change direction, the club is gonna hinge on its own, right? So I'm not in my swing, consciously trying to hinge the club up or feel like my wrists are really doing much of anything other than helping me hold on to the club, right? I'm trying to swing the club, with my legs and my shoulders and my body, right? These big muscles. Not with my wrists and my hands, right? So my hands and arms are mostly holding on to the club and helping me hit it, but the speed really comes from my body. I like to chip that way too, right? I chip with a pretty, passive wrist action. That was hit pretty hard, it felt like. Whew. Getting a nice little sweat going now. It's pretty humid in here. See, that's the one I really like, where I let everything kind of gather at the top and then add some speed to it, maybe about halfway down. Is it true that the slot should feel the lightest in the backswing? I swear, final question for the day, you're the best. Oh, don't worry about asking questions, dude. That's what this is for. I appreciate the question. It gives me something to chat about and talk about other than just standing in here, silently hitting golf balls, which isn't super interesting, I don't think, for anybody. I think that is right. I think there is something to that, right? And you'll notice it especially if you work on making swings with just your trail arm, right? Like if I make a takeaway that gets really in here, and I take it up, club feels pretty heavy, right? If I make a super outside takeaway, right, also feels pretty heavy. But if I make a pretty nice, on plane type swing, right, you'll notice it does feel a bit lighter. So I think there's something to that. And just, you can try to feel that, right? Because why I love the lead arm swing so much, it forces out a lot of the bad tendencies that happen from, your right side as a right-handed golfer trying to get too active, right? So you can really feel like, oh, if I made an inside takeaway and early extended, like I would just never be able to generate any power, right? If I was trying to hit this ball hard with just my lead arm, right? You would never be like, oh, like let's, extend up into it, right? But when our right hand gets involved and we're hitting a golf ball and we get nervous and we're trying to, get out of the way, it can happen, right? But when you swing it just your lead arm, you'll notice it doesn't make a ton of sense to do that, right? Like it doesn't feel right. So give that a try. That can really help with sequencing, you know, trying to feel like what some of those lead side muscles are meant to be doing in the golf swing, right? I have often said it is mostly a left side movement, right? You know, and this, you can hit balls this way. You can practice, right? That one wasn't hit great, but you get the idea. All right, guys, if you haven't already, I'd love if you'd consider hitting that subscribe button for me. It really does help. We're trying to grow this platform, you know, keep doing this more and more. Oh, that was so good. All right. Thank you guys very much again for all your support, asking good questions, hanging out in the stream, and we'll see you next time.